My sister looked me dead in the eye at her promotion party and said, "Someone had to play the failure in this family." The room went silent, but what happened next? Her boss took the microphone, and what he said changed everything. My name is Maya Chen, and this is the story of how one comment at a corporate party exposed 20 years of family lies. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, you're going to want to stay until the end of this story. And hey, if this resonates with you, hit that subscribe button, because I promise what you're about to hear is something a lot of us have lived through but rarely talk about. To understand what happened at that party, you need to understand how I got there. And that story starts when I was 12 years old, standing alone in a middle school gymnasium, holding a blue ribbon I thought would finally make my parents see me. It was the regional science fair. I'd spent 3 months building a solar panel system that could power a small household using recycled materials. The judges called it remarkably innovative for a 7th grader. I remember standing on that stage, scanning the audience for my parents' faces, so sure they'd be there. They weren't. My mum had texted me an hour before, "Honey, we can't make it. Victoria has a casting call for that local fashion show. You understand, right? We'll celebrate when you get home." I stood there, 12 years old, watching other kids run to their families with their ribbons and certificates, parents hugging them, taking photos, making a fuss. And I was alone, holding my first place trophy like it was evidence of something nobody cared to see. When I got home that night, our house was full of people, balloons, a cake, music. I walked in thinking, maybe, just maybe, they'd surprised me. "Maya, you're home. Come say hi to everyone." My mum waved me over. "We're celebrating Victoria making it to round 2 of the fashion show." Victoria was 15. She'd walked in a straight line and posed for 3 judges. She made it to round 2. She got eliminated the following week. My science fair trophy ended up in the garage, on a shelf between paint cans and old gardening tools. Nobody ever mentioned it again. That was the first time I really understood the pattern. But it wasn't the last. When I was 18, I got my college acceptance letters. I'd applied to 10 schools. I got into 9. But the one that mattered, the one I'd dreamed about since I was 14, was MIT. Full scholarship, mechanical engineering. The letter came on a Tuesday. I opened it in my room, hands shaking. And when I read the word "congratulations," I actually screamed. I ran downstairs, waving the letter like a flag. "Mom, Dad, I got into MIT, full ride." My mum looked up from her phone. "That's wonderful, sweetie." "What's MIT again?" "Massachusetts Institute of Technology, one of the best engineering schools in the world." "Oh, that's in Massachusetts? That's so far?" That same week, Victoria got accepted to State College. Her GPA was 2.8. She got into one school because my dad called in a favour with an alumnus friend. My parents threw a dinner party, 20 people, catered food, a slideshow of Victoria's high school photos. "We're so proud! Our daughter's going to college!" I was there, sitting at the end of the table, my MIT letter folded in my pocket. When I tried to mention it, my mum patted my hand and said, "That's nice, honey. Victoria, tell everyone about your dorm room options." I learned something that night. Achievement without witnesses doesn't count. And in my family, I would never have witnesses. The pattern continued through college, through graduations, through every milestone that should have mattered. But the moment that broke something permanently in me happened when I was 22. My grandmother, my mum's mum, passed away. She was the only person in my family who ever really saw me. When everyone else was fawning over Victoria, my grandma would pull me aside and ask about my projects, my ideas, my dreams. She'd listen like what I said actually mattered. She died quietly in her sleep. I was living 3 hours away, close enough that I'd been driving over every weekend to help take care of her. Cooking meals, managing medications, just sitting with her. The funeral was on a Saturday. I drove home, numb and heartbroken. When I arrived at the church, the program was already printed. Victoria was listed as the person giving the eulogy. Victoria, who'd visited Grandma maybe 5 times in 2 years. I found my mum in the back room. "Mum, why is Victoria doing the eulogy? I was with Grandma almost every weekend." My mum adjusted her dress in the mirror. "Victoria has better public speaking skills, honey. You know how you get nervous in front of people. We want this to be perfect for Grandma." Victoria's eulogy was 7 minutes long. She talked about childhood memories, about Grandma's cooking, about family values. She didn't mention me once, not once. After the funeral, I helped clean out Grandma's house. In her bedroom closet, behind winter coats and shoeboxes, I found something that made me sit down on the floor and cry. It was a photo album, but not a normal one. Every page was filled with articles about me. Newspaper clippings from the science fair, a printed screenshot of my MIT acceptance announcement on the school website, a program from my college engineering symposium where I presented my senior project, every single thing I'd ever accomplished, carefully cut out, taped in, preserved. And in the margins, in my grandma's shaky handwriting, were notes. "So proud of my brilliant girl." They don't see her, but I do. She's going to change the world. Tucked in the back was an envelope addressed to my parents. The letter inside was dated 3 months before she died. It had never been sent. I opened it with shaking hands. "To my daughter and son-in-law," it began. "I watch you pour everything into Victoria while Maya builds herself from scraps. Do you know she cries in my garden when she thinks no one sees? Do you know she works twice as hard because she thinks earning your love is possible? It breaks my heart. Not because Maya won't survive. She will. She's stronger than all of us. But because she shouldn't have to. One day you'll realize what you missed, the quiet brilliance, the gentle strength. The daughter who would have given anything to be seen. I hope that day comes before it's too late. Love, Mom." I sat on my grandmother's bedroom floor, clutching that album and that letter, and something inside me cracked wide open. My grandmother had seen it. She'd seen everything. She'd watched my parents erase me year after year, and it had broken her heart. But she was the only one, and now she was gone. That was 10 years ago. I'm 32 now. I've built an entire life my family knows almost nothing about. I'm a lead engineer at one of the largest aerospace defense companies in the country. I design navigation systems for satellites, the kind of work that requires top-secret security clearance and meetings with Pentagon officials. I can't tell people what I do, not really, because most of it's classified. I make $180,000 a year. I own my condo, I have my own life, and I'm still invisible to my family. Victoria is 35 now. She's a junior marketing manager at a mid-sized tech company. She makes about $75,000 a year, but lives like she makes twice that. She has 45,000 Instagram followers, most of them bought, and she posts constantly about her amazing career and living her best life. And my parents still treat her like she's curing cancer. And me? I'm still the quiet one they don't quite know what to do with. 6 months ago was Thanksgiving. I drove 4 hours to my parents' house in Connecticut. I walked in at 5:30, the time my mum had told me dinner would be served. The table was already half empty, plates scraped clean, wine glasses refilled. "Oh, Maya, you made it!" My dad looked genuinely surprised to see me. "You said 5:30. We started at 4. Victoria was stuck in traffic from Manhattan, so we couldn't wait. But there's plenty left. Make yourself a plate. Victoria arrived 2 hours later with a professional photographer she'd hired to capture authentic family moments for the grid. She spent the rest of the evening posing. Every photo I was in got cropped out before she posted them. When I mentioned something about work, my dad cut me off. "That's all classified stuff, right? Let's talk about something we can all understand. Victoria, tell us about your new marketing campaign." 3 months ago, my parents celebrated their 35th wedding anniversary. I'd quietly booked a weekend at a beautiful resort 2 hours away, paid the $3,000 deposit, planned the whole thing. Then Victoria posted in our family group chat, "I'm planning an amazing party for Mum and Dad. Who's in?" Everyone responded to her. Everyone thanked her for being so thoughtful. When I mentioned I'd already booked something, Victoria texted back, "Oh, you did? Well, I guess we can use your reservation as backup if my venue falls through." Her venue was a karaoke bar with budget decorations. My parents loved it. "Victoria, you're so thoughtful. This is perfect." I cancelled my resort reservation, lost the entire deposit. 1 month ago, my dad had a heart attack. My mum called Victoria first. "Your father needs you," I found out through a Facebook post my aunt made. I took emergency leave from work and drove straight to the hospital. When I arrived, Victoria was in the waiting room, surrounded by relatives, playing the role of worried daughter to perfection. The doctor came out to discuss treatment options. Victoria stepped forward. "I'll handle this. Maya, you don't really understand medical stuff anyway." I'd spent a summer internship designing medical devices. I understood more than she ever would, but I didn't say anything. I just stood there, invisible again. Then 2 weeks ago, I got an email. I was CC'd, not directly addressed. The subject line read, "You're invited to Victoria Chen's Senior Marketing Manager Promotion Celebration." The invitation was formal. Fancy rooftop bar at her company. Dress code, corporate chic. RSVP note. Family attendance appreciated but not required. I stared at that email for 20 minutes, typed a response, deleted it, typed another, deleted that too. My best friend Jasmine texted me that night. "Girl, tell me you're not actually going to that party." I didn't respond right away. "Maya, why are you doing this to yourself?" I finally typed back, "Because I need to see it. I need to see if they'll ever see me." Jasmine called immediately. "Babe, no. People who want to see you already do. The ones who don't. A fancy party won't change that." I knew she was right, but something in me needed to go, needed to witness it one more time. Maybe so I could finally let go. "I'm going," I told her. "Then I'm coming with you?" "You're not walking into that alone." 3 days before the party, something happened at work. I got an email from HR with the subject line, "Congratulations. DoD Contract Award Recognition. I opened it, confused. It was an internal memo. My navigation system design had been selected by the Pentagon for their next generation satellite program. The contract was worth $47 million over 3 years. There would be a company-wide recognition ceremony next month. I sat at my desk, staring at the screen, trying to process it. My boss, Richard, called me into his office. Richard is 55, a former Air Force colonel with steel grey hair and a no-nonsense demeanour that terrifies most people. He terrified me when I first started. "Chen, close the door." I did, my heart pounding. "Is something wrong?" "Wrong?" He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "Kid, you just landed us the biggest defence contract in company history. I'm putting you up for senior principal engineer. That's 2 levels up. Almost nobody jumps 2 levels." I couldn't speak. "You know what I told the Pentagon Review Board?" He leaned back in his chair. "I said, you're not just getting a system. You're getting Maya Chen. And she doesn't do good enough. She does perfect, then makes it better. You've earned this." Something cracked open in my chest. Someone saw my work, really saw it, understood what it meant. "The announcement goes out next week," Richard continued, "but between you and me, start thinking about your acceptance speech. The board wants you to present at the annual shareholder meeting. You'll be the youngest engineer ever to present." I walked out of his office in a daze. Sat in my car for 10 minutes before I could drive home. That night, my mom called. "Maya, you're coming to Victoria's party tomorrow, right? Please try to look presentable. Victoria's boss will be there, and we want to make a good impression." "Mum, it's Victoria's party. She'll make the impression." "That's exactly the attitude I'm talking about." Her voice was sharp with annoyance. "Why can't you be happy for your sister? She worked so hard for this promotion." "I am happy for her, Mum." "Good. And please, don't mention your work. Nobody wants to hear about satellites and technical things at a party. It makes people uncomfortable." I was quiet for a long moment. "Maya, did you hear me?" "Yeah, Mum, I heard you. I'll be there." After I hung up, I texted Jasmine. "You're right, but I'm still going. Not for them, for me. I need to see this clearly, once and for all." She responded immediately. "Then I'm coming with you. I'm putting on my best corporate armour, and we are going. Besides, I want to see this boss of hers. Something tells me this party is about to get interesting." The night of the party, Jasmine picked me up at 7. I was wearing a simple navy dress and a cardigan. Nothing fancy, nothing that would draw attention. "You look perfect," Jasmine said. She was in a burgundy jumpsuit that made her look like she owned the building. "You ready for this?" "No, but let's go anyway." The venue was on the rooftop of Victoria's office building, twinkling lights strung across exposed beams, an open bar, a DJ playing tasteful background music, at least 80 people in expensive business casual, holding drinks and laughing. We walked in, and within 30 seconds Victoria spotted me, not to greet me, to assess my outfit. Her eyes travelled from my shoes to my hair, and her expression flickered with something like disappointment. She turned to a colleague and said, loud enough for me to hear, "Oh, good, Maya made it." And she wore that. Jasmine's hand tightened on my arm. "I already don't like her." "Get in line," I muttered. My parents materialised near the bar, orbiting Victoria like planets around the sun. "Maya, you came..." My dad seemed genuinely surprised, like my attendance had been optional. My mum kissed Victoria's cheek. "Sweetie, you look stunning. Everyone's talking about you." Then, almost as an afterthought, she glanced at me. "Oh, you're here? Good. Go get a drink or something." I watched them steer Victoria toward a cluster of important-looking people. Victoria's boss, her colleagues, clients. They introduced her with glowing pride. Nobody introduced me. Nobody said, "This is Victoria's sister." I was present, but completely invisible. Jasmine returned from the bar with 2 drinks. "I need a strong drink. Actually, make that 2, 1 for each of us." I took the glass and stood there, watching Victoria work the room. She was glowing, confident, charming, surrounded by attention, and I felt nothing, not jealousy, not anger, just a strange, hollow clarity. This is who they've always chosen, and I've spent 32 years waiting for it to be different. "You okay?" Jasmine asked quietly. "Yeah," I said, and I meant it. "Actually, yeah, I think I'm starting to be." But the night hadn't really started yet. The worst part was still coming. At 8:30, someone tapped a microphone. The DJ lowered the music. The crowd turned toward the makeshift stage area where Victoria stood, beaming, holding a microphone. "Thank you all so much for coming tonight." Her voice carried across the rooftop. "This promotion means everything to me because I worked so hard for it." She launched into a speech about her journey, the challenges she'd overcome, her growth mindset, all the usual corporate platitudes. It was polished, rehearsed, perfectly delivered. The crowd applauded. My parents beamed from the front row like she'd just won an Oscar. "I especially want to thank my amazing support system," Victoria continued. "Mom, Dad, you taught me to dream big." She blew them a kiss. They literally clutched their hearts. And I want to give a special shout out to my incredible boss, Michael Torres, who believed in me from day one. "Michael, you're seriously the best." A distinguished-looking man in his late 40s raised his glass from the back of the crowd, salt and pepper hair, quiet authority in his posture. He gave a polite smile but didn't step forward. "You know," Victoria said, her tone shifting slightly, "success isn't just about talent. It's about showing up, being visible, making connections." I felt Jasmine's hand tighten on my arm. "It's funny," Victoria continued, her eyes scanning the crowd until they landed on me. Her smile sharpened. "Some people think success just happens. They do their little jobs in their little cubicles and expect recognition." The room got quieter. A few people laughed uncomfortably. "Like my sister, for example." She gestured toward me with her champagne glass. "Maya's here tonight. Wave, Maya." Suddenly, everyone was looking at me. 80 pairs of eyes. I froze, my drink halfway to my mouth. "Maya's an engineer or something technical, very smart." Victoria's laugh was bright and cutting. "She does her thing with computers or, I don't know, satellites." She waved her hand dismissively. "But here's the thing about success. It's not just about being smart. It's about being visible, being relevant, connecting with people." A few people in the crowd laughed. Others looked uncomfortable, shifting their weight. My dad chuckled. "That's my Victoria, always the personality." Victoria's voice dropped, taking on a mock sympathetic tone. "And honestly, someone had to play the failure in this family. Not everyone can be a senior principal engineer at Northrop Grumman." The voice cut through the room, deep, authoritative, not loud, but commanding enough that everyone stopped and turned. Michael Torres had stood up. He wasn't smiling anymore. "Excuse me, Victoria. I'm going to borrow this for a moment." Michael Torres walked toward the microphone with the kind of calm authority that made people step aside without being asked. He didn't reach for it. He simply stood there, and Victoria, confused and suddenly nervous, handed it over. "Oh, Michael, I was just," she started. He didn't acknowledge her. He turned to face the crowd. "For those who don't know me, I'm Michael Torres, VP of Marketing here at TechVine. I've worked in defense contracting, aerospace, and tech for 25 years. The rooftop had gone completely silent. Even the bartender had stopped pouring drinks. Michael's eyes found me in the crowd, and I know exactly who Maya Chen is. My blood turned to ice. "Maya Chen," he continued, his voice steady and clear. "Lead Engineer, Advanced Navigation Systems Division at Northrop Grumman. Department of Defense Top Secret Security Clearance. Responsible for the guidance system currently operating in 40% of United States military satellites." He paused, letting that information settle over the crowd like snow. My parents' faces were frozen in confusion. Victoria looked like she'd been slapped. "3 days ago," Michael said, "the Pentagon awarded Maya's team a $47 million contract for next-generation satellite navigation. That contract will likely save hundreds of military lives and strengthen national security for the next decade." Someone in the crowd whispered, "Holy shit." Michael turned slightly toward Victoria. His voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. "Now, I don't know Maya personally, but I know her work. Because when you work in defense-adjacent spaces, you hear names. And Maya Chen's name comes up in rooms with generals and Department of Defense officials." Victoria's face had gone from red to white. She looked like she wanted to disappear. "A Victoria," Michael said, and his tone shifted. Still professional, but firm. "You're a good marketing manager. You got a well-deserved promotion today. But what you just did, publicly humiliating someone whose work literally protects this country, shows a profound lack of character and judgment." "I was just joking," Victoria's voice cracked. "No," Michael cut her off. "You were punching down, and the fact that you chose family, that makes it worse, not better." He turned back to me and his expression softened. "Ms. Chen, I apologize on behalf of everyone here who stayed silent. And I want you to know, whatever visibility you think you lack, you have it where it matters. The people who actually understand your work know exactly who you are." I couldn't speak. My throat was tight. Tears were building behind my eyes, but they weren't from sadness. They were from finally being seen. Michael set the microphone down on the nearest table and walked directly over to where Jasmine and I stood. The crowd parted for him. When he reached us, he spoke quietly, so only we could hear. "My brother works at Northrop Propulsion Systems. He told me about you 3 months ago. Said you're the best engineer in that building. When I saw the name Victoria Chen on tonight's invitation, and then saw you walk in looking like you wanted to disappear." He shook his head. "I put 2 and 2 together." "Thank you," I managed to whisper. "Don't thank me. Just keep doing what you're doing." He pulled a business card from his jacket pocket and handed it to me. "If you ever want to consult on our aerospace partnerships, call me. Someone with your expertise shouldn't be invisible anywhere." He nodded to Jasmine, gave me one more look that felt like validation I'd been waiting 32 years to receive, and walked back to his spot near the bar. The rooftop erupted in whispers. Did he just say $47 million? She works on military satellites? I thought she was like IT support or something. Did Victoria seriously not know what her own sister does? That was brutal. I've never seen Michael do that to anyone. My father pushed through the crowd, his face flushed. Maya, is that true about the contract? I looked at him, really looked at him. Yes. Why didn't you tell us? Something in me snapped. I did. Multiple times. You never asked follow-up questions. You just said it sounded technical and changed the subject to Victoria. My mother appeared next to him, her makeup starting to smudge. But Maya, we didn't know it was important. You didn't know because you didn't care to know. Victoria stumbled over, mascara running down her cheeks. Maya, I didn't mean it. I was just trying to be funny. I didn't know. You didn't know because you never asked, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. You've been doing this for 20 years, Victoria. Tonight was just the first time someone with authority called you out. Jasmine stepped between us. I think we're done here. I picked up my purse, started toward the exit. Maya, wait, my mother's voice cracked. We can talk about this. I stopped, turned around. The entire rooftop was watching. You want to talk? I said. Okay, let's talk. Tell me one thing about my actual job, one project I've worked on, one accomplishment from the last 5 years. Silence. My father opened his mouth, closed it, looked at my mother. She looked at Victoria. Victoria looked at the floor. That's what I thought, I said. Jasmine linked her arm through mine. We walked to the elevator. The doors closed on 80 stunned faces. Neither of us spoke until we got to her car. Then I started crying. Not sad crying, angry crying, relieved crying. Crying for the 12-year-old holding a science fair trophy alone. Crying for the 18-year-old whose MIT acceptance meant nothing. Crying for the 22-year-old who found her grandmother's hidden album. Jasmine pulled over 2 blocks from my building and held me while I sobbed. You're done now, she said into my hair. You're finally done. And I realized she was right. I woke up the next morning to 47 missed calls and over 200 texts. I lay in bed, staring at my phone screen, watching notifications pile up like snow. Victoria had sent 15 texts. Maya, please answer. I'm so sorry. I didn't know your job was that important. People are commenting on my Instagram. I'm losing followers. Mum and Dad are so mad at me. Can we just forget this happened? Please. My mother had sent 23 texts. Maya, we need to talk. This is ridiculous. Why didn't you tell us you were doing such important work? Your father and I are very hurt. We've always supported both of you equally. Victoria made a mistake, but she's your sister. Family forgives family. You're being incredibly selfish right now. My father's texts were shorter. 8 total. Call me. We need to discuss this. I don't appreciate being blindsided at a party. You could have told us about your promotion privately. This is embarrassing for the whole family. I read every single message, felt absolutely nothing. Jasmine showed up at 9 with coffee and bagels. I let her in without saying anything. How bad is it? She asked, setting breakfast on my counter. Bad. But also exactly what I expected. My phone rang. Mom, I put it on speaker. Maya, finally, we've been so worried. What do you want, Mom? Sweetie, that's no way to talk to your mother. Her voice had that injured quality she used when she wanted to guilt me. Listen, what happened last night was unfortunate, but Victoria feels terrible. She wants to make it up to you. We thought maybe we could all have dinner this weekend and talk about... No. A pause. What? I said no. I'm not having dinner. I'm not talking this out. I'm done. Maya, you're being dramatic. Victoria made one little comment. Mum, stop. I took a breath. Victoria didn't make one comment. Victoria has spent 20 years treating me like I don't matter. And you let her. Worse than that, you joined her. That is not fair. We have always what? Supported me. When? Name one time you chose me over Victoria. Silence on the other end. Science fair, I said. College acceptance, Grandma's funeral, Thanksgiving, your anniversary, Dad's hospital visit. 20 years of events where I was either forgotten or erased. Last night was just the first time it happened in front of witnesses. Victoria needed more attention. My mother's voice rose defensively. She was insecure. She struggled in school. And I didn't. I felt my own voice rising. You think being invisible in your own family doesn't hurt? I was a kid, Mom. I needed you too. But you were always fine. You were independent. You figured things out on your own. I didn't have a choice. The words hung in the air. I could hear my mother breathing on the other end of the line. Here's what's going to happen, I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. I'm not coming to family events anymore. I'm not playing the invisible daughter who shows up to make Victoria look good by comparison. I'm done being your acceptable collateral damage. Maya, you can't mean that we're your family. No, Mum, you're my relatives. Family shows up. Family sees you. Family doesn't need a corporate VP to tell them their daughter is worth something. Your father and I have always... Can reach out when you're ready to actually know me. Not quiet daughter Maya, not technical job Maya, me. Until then, I need space. I hung up before she could respond. Jasmine was staring at me, bagel halfway to her mouth. Holy shit, you did it. I did it, I repeated like I couldn't quite believe it myself. My phone immediately started ringing again. I turned it off. Bagel? Jasmine offered. Bagel, I agreed. We spent the rest of the morning eating and watching terrible reality TV, my phone blissfully silent on the counter. 3 days later, someone knocked on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole. Victoria. Absolutely not, Jasmine said from the couch. She'd basically moved in since the party. Let her in, I said. I want to hear this. Jasmine opened the door but stood in the doorway like a bouncer. 5 minutes. Victoria looked terrible. No makeup, hair in a messy bun, swollen eyes, wearing sweatpants and an old college hoodie I recognised from 10 years ago. Maya, please, I just need to talk to you. Let her in, Jas, I said. Jasmine stepped aside reluctantly. Victoria came in, wringing her hands. I am so sorry, she started immediately. I don't know what I was thinking. I was drunk and trying to be funny, and I completely... You weren't drunk, I interrupted. You had half a glass of champagne all night. I watched you. Victoria's face crumpled. Okay, fine. I wasn't drunk, but I didn't mean it the way it sounded. Victoria, stop. You meant every word. You've always thought of me as less than you. Because you are. The words exploded out of her, raw and desperate. You've always been perfect. Smart, accomplished, disciplined. Do you know what it's like growing up next to someone who makes everything look easy? I stared at her. Easy? You think my life has been easy? You got into MIT, you got the scholarship, you got the fancy defense job. Meanwhile, I had to claw my way through state school with a 2.8 GPA and beg for every opportunity I got. And I was alone, I said quietly, completely alone. While you had Mom and Dad celebrating every B+ like you'd won the Nobel Prize. They only did that because they felt sorry for me. Victoria was crying now, mascara from yesterday smudged under her eyes. Because I wasn't you. Because I was the disappointment. The truth of it landed between us like a bomb. So, that's it, I said slowly. You've spent 20 years putting me down because you thought Mom and Dad loved me more. Didn't they? Victoria's voice broke on the words. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw something I'd never seen before. She actually believed it. She actually thought she was the unloved one. No, Victoria, they didn't. They didn't love either of us the right way. They made you their princess project and me their invisible backup plan. And instead of us supporting each other against that, you became exactly what they wanted you to be, the centre of attention at my expense. Victoria sank onto my couch, sobbing. I'm sorry. God, Maya, I'm so sorry. Can we fix this? Can we try? I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe someday, but not now. Not until you do the work to figure out why you need to make someone else small to feel big. What does that mean? It means I can't be your rehabilitation project. I can't be the person you apologize to so you feel better about yourself. You hurt me, Victoria, for years, and I was jealous doesn't undo that. So what? We're just not sisters anymore. She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. We haven't been sisters in a long time, I said softly. We've been strangers who share DNA and a traumatized childhood. Maybe one day we can be friends, but that day isn't today. Victoria stood up slowly like she'd aged 10 years. I really am sorry, Maya, for all of it. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix 20 years. After she left, Jasmine sat next to me on the couch. You okay? Yeah, I said. Actually, yeah, and I meant it. Over the next 6 months, my life transformed in ways I'd never imagined. The promotion went through. Senior Principal Engineer. At 32, the youngest person in company history to reach that level. The shareholder presentation happened on a Tuesday in April. I stood in front of 300 people, investors and board members and executives, and explained the satellite navigation system in terms they could understand. When I finished, they gave me a standing ovation. Richard found me afterward in the hallway. You know what the chairman said to me? He said, "That woman just made me understand rocket science." You're going places, Chen. Defense News ran a feature article. The woman behind America's next-gen satellites. They interviewed me for 3 hours, took photos of me at my workstation, asked about my journey into aerospace engineering. I told them about the science fair when I was 12, about building solar panels in my garage, about being the only girl in most of my engineering classes. I didn't mention my family. The reporter asked if they were proud. I said, the people who matter are. Work became the place where I was most myself, where my contributions mattered, where people listened when I spoke. And slowly, carefully, I started building a life outside of waiting for my family to see me. I met someone, his name was David, an Air Force liaison who came to our facility for security briefings. He understood clearances, understood classified work, understood why I couldn't talk about most of my day. On our third date, he asked about my family. I told him the truth, all of it. "So you just don't see them anymore?" he asked. "Not right now. Maybe someday. But right now, I need to figure out who I am without trying to earn their approval." He reached across the table and took my hand. "For what it's worth, I think you're pretty incredible exactly as you are." It was the first time someone had said that, and I actually believed them. I started therapy. Twice a month at first, then weekly, Dr. Martinez specialized in family trauma. "You've been living with a deficit model," she explained during our fourth session. "You've been trying to fill a hole that your family created, believing that if you achieved enough, if you were good enough, they'd finally see you." "And now?" I asked. "Now you get to discover that you were always enough. They just weren't capable of seeing it. That's their limitation, not yours." It took months, but slowly I started to believe her. Jasmine became my chosen family. She and her wife hosted me for holidays, included me in their friend group, treated me like I mattered. "You know what's wild?" Jasmine said one night over wine. "You're like a different person now. You take up space, you laugh louder, you exist instead of apologizing for existing." "Is that good?" I asked. "It's everything," she said. Victoria texted me on my birthday. "Happy birthday, Maya. I hope you're doing well. I'm in therapy, working on myself. No pressure to respond. Just wanted you to know I'm trying." I typed back, "Thank you. I'm glad you're getting help." It wasn't much, but it was honest. My parents sent a card. My mum's handwriting on the envelope. Inside, "We miss you. We're trying to understand. We're sorry we didn't see you. No pressure, just love, Mum and Dad." I kept the card, put it in a drawer. Didn't respond yet, but I kept it. On a Saturday in October, 6 months after the party, I sat in my apartment looking at the photo on my desk. My grandmother, smiling at me from 20 years ago. Next to it, the letter she'd written but never sent. I picked it up, reading her words for the 100th time. "One day, you'll realize what you missed, the quiet brilliance, the gentle strength. The daughter who would have given anything to be seen. I hope that day comes before it's too late." I set the letter down and looked at the camera I'd set up. I'd been thinking about making a video, telling my story, not for revenge, not to hurt anyone, but because maybe somewhere, someone else needed to hear it. I pressed record. "People ask me if I regret cutting off my family," I said to the camera. "They say, but they're your family, like that's supposed to override years of hurt." I took a breath. Here's what I learned. Family isn't a shield against accountability. Being related to someone doesn't mean they get unlimited access to hurt you. And forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. You can forgive people and still choose not to be around them. I thought about that night at Victoria's party, about Michael Torres taking the microphone, about finally being seen. That night at my sister's promotion party, her boss didn't save me. He just said out loud what I'd known for years. I was always worth seeing. My family just chose not to. I felt tears building, but kept talking. And that choice? That was never about me. It was about them, their limitations, their blind spots, their inability to value something that didn't perform for their approval. I spent 32 years waiting to be picked, to be celebrated, to be enough. And then I realized I was always enough, just not for them. I wiped my eyes. So no, I don't regret setting boundaries. I regret not doing it sooner. I paused, thinking about everyone out there who might be watching, who might see themselves in my story. If you're watching this and you see yourself here, the invisible one, the forgotten one, the one who's told you're too sensitive when you ask to be seen, I want you to know something. I looked directly at the camera. You don't owe anyone access to you just because you're related. You don't owe anyone forgiveness just because time has passed. And you don't owe anyone your presence in spaces where you're treated like you don't matter. Being seen by the right people is better than being visible to the wrong ones. I stopped recording. Later that night, David came over. We were supposed to go to dinner, but when he saw my face, he just pulled me into a hug. You okay? Yeah, I said into his shoulder. I really am. We ordered takeout instead, ate it on my couch, watched a movie I'd seen 100 times. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Hi Maya, this is Michael Torres. I hope it's okay that I'm reaching out. I wanted you to know that what happened at that party has been on my mind. I've been thinking about starting a mentorship program for women in STEM who deal with family dynamics that don't support their success. Would you be interested in being part of it? No pressure, just thought of you. I stared at the message. Good news? David asked. Yeah, I said slowly. I think it might be. I typed back. I'd be honoured. Thank you for thinking of me. 1 year later, I stood in front of a room of young women engineers. The mentorship program had launched. 15 women, all dealing with families who didn't understand or value their work. My name is Maya Chen, I began, and I want to tell you about the night my sister called me a failure in front of 80 people and how it became the best thing that ever happened to me. They leaned forward, listening. I told them everything, the science fair, the MIT acceptance, my grandmother's album, the party, Michael's intervention, the aftermath. Here's what I learned, I said at the end. You can't make people see you who are determined to look away, but you can find people who are already looking, who already see your value, who celebrate your brilliance instead of resenting it. A young woman in the back raised her hand. Do you ever talk to your family now? Sometimes, I said honestly. We're working on it. Slowly. My sister's in therapy. My parents are trying. But I don't need their validation anymore to know I matter. That's the difference. After the session, several women came up to thank me. One of them, barely 22, had tears in her eyes. My parents didn't come to my graduation, she said. They said it was too far. But they drove the same distance for my brother's bachelor party the month before. I hugged her. I see you, I said. What you're doing matters. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. That night I came home to my apartment. The one I'd made into a home, photos on the walls of people who chose me, Jasmine and her wife, David, my work team, the women from the mentorship program, no family photos, not yet. Maybe someday. My phone rang. Victoria. We talked once a month now. Careful conversations, progress. Hey, she said when I answered. How was the mentorship thing? Good, really good actually. I'm proud of you, she said quietly. It was the first time she'd ever said that. Thanks, V. We talked for 20 minutes. About her therapy. About the new job she'd started at a smaller company where she felt less pressure to perform. about the work she was doing to understand why she'd spent so many years competing with me. "I think I'm finally getting it," she said. "That we were both trying to survive a system that pitted us against each other. And I chose wrong. I chose their approval over having a sister." "You're doing the work now," I said. "That's what matters." After we hung up, I sat on my couch looking at my grandmother's photo. "You were right," I said to her picture. They did realize what they missed, but by the time they did, I'd already realized I didn't need them to. I thought about that girl at the party, the one in the navy dress and cardigan, standing invisible in a crowd. The one who'd spent 32 years waiting to be seen. She was gone now. In her place was a woman who took up space, who knew her worth, who didn't apologize for her brilliance. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Like no matter what you achieved, no matter how hard you tried, you'd never be the one they celebrated. I did, for 32 years. But here's what I learned. The people who matter will see you, and the ones who don't, their blindness says everything about them and nothing about you. You were always enough. You were always brilliant. You were always worth seeing. They just weren't looking, but somewhere, someone is. Find those people. Build your life with them. Let them be your witnesses. And to everyone who was told they were too much or not enough, who spent years trying to earn love that should have been freely given, who felt invisible in the places they should have been most seen, I want you to know something. You were always exactly right, exactly enough, exactly worthy. They just didn't have the capacity to see it. But I do, and I see you.